Festival Season 5, and it's packed house, so that's amazing. So excited to introduce this wonderful cast. We'll start with creator Byron Balasco, Frank Grillo, Natalie Martinez, Joanna Going, Kiele Sanchez, and I believe Lauria is right behind. Hi. You guys will have to share. Oh, okay.
27 years old.
Nice.
Can I grab that?
Yeah, go for it. Started off right.
Look at that.
I can't compete with presents.
I didn't even know it was his birthday. You guys are like lavishing him with gifts?
I feel so bad.
When you're ageless, do you have birthdays?
Is this on? Guys,
Yes,
it was my birthday yesterday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you so much.
It's
My mother and my sister and my, no.
We have plans. Before we dive into this season, I want to start with you. What was it about everyone on this stage that, you knew that they were the right ones for the roles? Because these characters not only have such emotional weight to them, but such a physicality.
They're all damn good actors was really the big thing. But you're right to say it was very hard to find actors with the right physicality, but that could also really act, because fighting is really not a huge, it's a big part of the show, but it's not the main requirement of the show. So it was a tough process, but there really was no second place for any of these roles.
For everyone else, did anyone hesitate about taking the roles, or were you ready to dive in for the challenge?
It's so gritty, and I was so arrested by the role in the first episode. It was so psychological and interesting, and the writing was so good. But as we were kind of working our way through the deal, I sent the script to my mom, who's a really sort of righteous, spiritual, saintly lady. And I was like, Mom, I don't know, can I do this? And I said, will you just read it? And she read it, and she's like, if you don't do this, you're crazy. So I got the stamp of approval from Mom, and so now when she sees all this stuff, I go, well, I gave you.
Fair warning. For anyone else, if you want to take that, Frank, I know you boxed and fought.
Yeah, it was really close to home. Alvy's not that far from who I am. So it was a matter of, do I want to go and do this, which is, I could kind of do this, and then I spoke to Byron, because I was a little bit on the fence, because not knowing, how deep they were going to go into the fighting aspect and into the lives of these people, which I kind of know. And one conversation with him changed my mind, and we always joke about this famous Skype that him and I have had between each other. It's not really famous. And every time something good happens with the show, we look at each other and go, remember the Skype? So it's, it's just written so beautifully. I think everybody will agree. It's actor proof. We call it actor proof. The scripts are, you just have to show up.
Yeah. There's this famous Skype, and we took our
famous
shirts
off. We actually did have our shirts off.
Just stared into each other's eyes.
I was holding my child.
Well, as we saw, Alvy is hit quite rock bottom.
Oh, no, there's much further.
Well, I was going to say, he's in therapy. That's a start,
yeah.
right? Is he going to get worse before he gets better? And how is he sort of handling everything that's happened throughout the season?
Well, I think like any man, when faced with adversity, they try to address it like for a minute and then brush it under the carpet. And that's what most men do, and I think that's what Alvy does. But I just think eventually the carpet gets filled and it starts to overflow with all the crap. And that's what's about to happen, I think, with Alvy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We finally saw Jay and Ryan face off. Did you always know who the winner was should that happen? Was that always in your plan?
Not from the very beginning.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I just think as you know, as the stories evolved and the characters evolved, it really became a question of what would happen, what's the reality of it, and also, you know, you think about each character and how are they going to react to that result, and you know, it just seemed like fertile ground to go this way, and it felt real. It just felt like the way it would go down.
How's Ryan feeling after that? I mean, we saw he's
Well, obviously, it's not a true representation of what he has to offer in the cage.
He was hurt. He had a bad knee.
I don't know if all of you have seen the season leading up to this, but I had a terrible knee injury in the first episode, and it's been sort
I
of.
mean, it wasn't that bad.
It was as bad as it gets. Okay. Yeah, no, you know, you get so wrapped up in the characters and so invested in it, and we're trying so hard to authenticate being fighters that it's a tough blow to not win, certainly, because your soul is infused with your characters, so it's a disappointment. But it also, like Byron said, it's realistic. I mean, if Jay didn't go for my knee, obviously Ryan would beat the shit out of him.
clearly.
Yeah, but I mean, it's emotional. I mean, I've seen this episode 10,000 times, from making it to cutting it to watching it a million times, and I still get emotional, you know, watching that scene. And you know, you go see your friends that are fighters fight, and they lose, and it's hard to see.
One of the great things about the show is, yes, they fight really tough opponents in the ring, but really it's all about the battling their inner demons, and a lot of them have those that they haven't quite faced yet. So is that a theme that you set out to have, and will that continue throughout the entirety of the series?
No, they're eventually all going to be completely well-adjusted and and happy. Yeah, I mean, that's sort of a good maybe thesis for the whole show. Really, is that, you know, it's a very simple life when you're inside the cage, because you either win or lose. There's really no external forces, and it's just you and the person you're fighting, and it's very simple and binary. And just outside of the cage is where everything is complicated, and you can't control anything, and you know, it's difficult. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's a good way to look at the show.
Joanna, we, as everyone just watched, a pretty tough scene. Christina goes through something very dramatic and traumatic. Talk about, you know, does this affect her sobriety? Sort of where she goes from here, and I love that her sons are so protective of her. Are we going to see a lot of her leaning on them?
Well, Jay certainly has.
Press the yeah.
I'd just like to say how brilliant was Joanna in this episode. All of her work with Billy Lush, who plays Jason, the therapist, and all of your reactions to the fight, watching your son, like, I loved watching.
You should have seen my
reactions.
reactions sitting up there. I was weeping. That was so beautifully. I mean, you know, I saw it all happen. I know the script and everything, but just seeing it put together and the way they cut it, and the music and everything, that was truly breathtaking. And as for Christina, well, you know, she keeps trying to find a way down the path of sobriety, and making unwise choices along the way. You know, Jay has been her protector, her guardian, and her savior, but he's got his attention on other things now. And I think Nate just kind of puts up with her, but he's really the one. I think she's under his gaze. She really wants to stand up straight. And Jay and Christina are two of a kind. They're very codependent. They understand each other, and they know they're always going to be there together. Nate is the real judge for Christina. So I think we're going to see more of how she deals with Nate and how Nate deals with her.
Natalie, I mean, Alicia's, first of all, coming into her own as a fighter, and I've seen a few more episodes. She kicks major ass this season. But we're learning more about her as well, and obviously her family. So what does the introduction of Ava sort of bring, and how that affects? And obviously Ava has some romantic entanglements as well. So I think things might be getting a little complicated.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think one of the things that's good about meeting my sister on the show, and you get to see a little bit more of how, like a little more of Alicia's past, and you get to understand her a little more. And even in this episode, you kind of saw a little backstory. So you get to learn about her more. And I think, she is coming into herself, and you're going to see her grow into that fighter. She's going to be very protective. I mean, the way, even that scene with Alvy and I, I'm very protective about Navy Street. This is finally something that feels like a home. It feels like a family. They're treating me like one, and I think I'm going to be very defensive of that. So you're going to see her kind of grow as a fighter, as a person. Learn more about her.
And Kiele, for you, as Alvy said in the episode we just saw, Lisa is so strong. She's also suffered something pretty traumatic. Who, when she returns, does she sort of keep a straight face? Is there someone she leans on? Does she keep that tough exterior?
Oh, thank you. Do I have to? Okay. Yeah, I think that Lisa holds her emotions and what she's feeling and thinking very close to the vest. So I think that it's going to be interesting to see how, when something brings you to your knees, what you do from there. And I think that there weren't a whole lot of people that she leaned on during the pregnancy. So now losing the pregnancy, I think that she wants to come back to where there is a family for her. But who does she really have?
Yeah, I mean, part of what's hard for Lisa, the character, is that so many people who are so fucked up look to her as to be stable and strong. She's gone through this horrible thing, so I think any sign of weakness or any cracks in the facade, I think she's afraid will scare people and sort of mess with her place in the larger family, so to speak. So that doesn't make for great coping, but it's survival.
For anyone who wants to take it, what was the most challenging scene that you've had to film so far?
It's kind of hard to say, like, without giving too much away, because I had one of
Scenes that we've aired.
that you see. I mean, the fights are pretty intense. I think, wasn't this fight with Jay? And was it like 2 days that you shot, or was it?
Oh yeah, that was yeah.
Yeah, so it's like these things we put a lot of preparation in, and the guys especially. I mean, they diet. I don't. So, but they really go in, and I think the fight scenes are pretty hard in the sense of they're physically draining, but they're a lot of fun, and I think that's what I can say, at least for the fights. They're pretty intense. They're intense as you see them.
Anyone else?
This was what we saw today was pretty intense for me. It was probably the most physical thing that I had to do on the show, and getting that right and still being 100% in the moment. I just had a little taste of what they do in the cage week after week, and it just emotionally was very intense. And watching it, I gotta say, very timely. I'm actually kind of like, yeah, I'm glad that episode just came out, or is coming out next week.
Yeah, this was a really intense episode.
Seriously. But I can imagine it gets even more intense as the season goes on. Yeah. I love that the series is really starting to get major buzz. Do you feel that people are finally starting to catch on and catch wind of the incredible show? I mean, I love that even there's so much advertising everywhere. You can't miss it finally, and I'm so glad that people are really starting to watch. Do you feel that as well?
Yeah, it's been a struggle, because you go to work and you do all this stuff, and everybody does incredible work, and it's been kind of under the radar. And the first season's like, oh, you're under the radar, and it's like, okay, we're under the radar. And then the second season's like, but you're under the radar, and it's like, no, I don't want to be under the radar.
Yeah.
I mean, all of us will go do plays in our basement if if no one's going to watch. But yeah, it feels good. AT&T took over DirecTV, and evidently AT&T has money. Who knew? And they really put up. You know, they made a great effort with not only advertising, but even in awards campaigns and stuff to throw our names in the hats. And so it's great. There's certainly a palpable difference this year than there's been in the past. Yeah.
But I'd also like to say that I think part of the appeal of why we did the show in the first place was kind of being under the radar helped initially because we had a lot of freedom. Byron had a lot of freedom from DirecTV, and you know, we got to make the show that we wanted to make with you know, free reign and being able to show whatever we wanted to show and say whatever we want to say. So it was really nice to start out that way. But it's nicer that people aren't getting to see it now.
We have a foundation now. I mean, it was almost like going into a lab and doing this. We did 30 episodes that you know, that I think make a very solid foundation of who we are and what we do and who these characters are and how we tell the story. And it wasn't interrupted by, you know, fuss and, you know, sparkles. You know, it's maintained its isness. And so now I think that we have that under us, and as we begin to grow, I think that we won't falter from the direction we've been heading in.
Well, hopefully going forward, now that they're doing all this advertising, they won't bother us on set in future seasons. Yeah. So.
We have time just to go to a few audience questions.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, well, last week Dana White, who is the face of the UFC, one of the owners of the UFC, came to our set at Kingdom. We all went down and met him there, and he gushed for about an hour about how this is not only his favorite show, but it's now his job to make the world know about Kingdom. And that's the president of the UFC. And then the following night, we were all guests of his at UFC 199. Every chance he got, he just said Kingdom, Kingdom, Kingdom. So it is a huge honor, you know, when the judicious, we want everybody to enjoy it, but when those people come to us and say, this is our life, this is real, this is our show, it just it changes it's humbling, and it changes our lives, and we know we're doing something right. It's really great, yeah.
There's a whole plan.
The question was, how can you see this show if
How
you don't
can you see
have
this show?
DirecTV?
Right now, as far as I know, DirecTV and ATT-Uverse, and I know that there's plans to make it available streaming in some form in the future. I am not, believe it or not, in those meetings, and I don't have the satellite codes either. But I know that there is a plan, and it will be revealed at some point.
Everybody here
Sorry.
gets free AT&T.
Congratulations! Reach under your seats. There's a dish under your seat. So, yeah, so he would have you believe. Yeah. Right.
You better not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you always, you know, I like to go into every season with a very general, broad plan. I spend a lot of time with these guys talking to them and just talking about, you know, what's going on in our lives, what are we interested in, you know, where do we think the character is, and I kind of gather all that, and then I sit down and plan the season. You know, I really like to change course during the season if I need to, and I think that's, you know, because of you know, the creative freedom that we have. I'm not stuck like turning in outlines that have to get approved 9 times, and then if I deviate, people are like, what? We agreed. But so I'm free to really write what I want to write, and that's kind of how we make the show, which is we follow the path that presents itself, you know. And I mean, there is a lot of planning. We're very organized. We're very like efficient production, but when you have creative freedom, you're not bogged down with notes. You're not bogged down with a lot of interference. You have the agility to make changes and find a path that's interesting, and it's really informed by these actors. You know, I mean, you definitely watch them and learn how to write for them, and their voices get in your head.
I think we should like recognize the brilliance of Byron Balasco and like.
Please, thank you.
Well, really quick, on most television shows, you may or may not know, there's 5 to 12 writers in a writer's room, and they all share responsibilities, and you know, they work on different scripts, and Byron does everything himself. So he does first-page rewrites on every script, and he basically is the voice for all 10 episodes. And he has other writers, but they don't really do very much, do they? No, I'm kidding. No, but he labors over this more than anybody I've ever seen. So the credit does, as much as it kills me, go to him.
Why is this my question? I don't have a tattoo on the show.
They're like the little kid kind that have like plastic on one side and paper on the back, and they're just thicker, yeah.
It takes a couple hours in makeup. We constantly have to touch them up, particularly if they're fighting. They will smear, but we have, you know, great makeup department who really does a great job with it. They read the paper, read their books,
and the
gossip.
ears and all that. You know, the whole process is 2 hours. And the tricky thing is, Tucker's slide right off. So when we're fighting, he has to be really careful. Mine won't ever come off. So they spend an hour trying to like scrape them off me. So one way or another, it's tricky.
There's one right down here, yeah.
Sorry, we're not prepared. One of our friends online wanted to know what you guys feel about how you've inspired people, especially maybe older, middle-aged, or people who haven't exercised a lot to get into the
I thought you were going to say to do heroin. I was like,
I like that there's some healthy living lesson to take out of the show, somewhere.
No, I think it's awesome. I think anytime anyone, you know, middle-aged like myself or younger, is inspired by anything to make themselves better, healthy, to, you know, live better lives, it's fantastic. I mean, that's flattering, you know, and people do. They watch the show and they get motivated to work out or eat well, and I hear that a lot, and it's great. I mean, I've been influenced by things too that make me neurotic and eat crazy stuff. So it's another, you know, it's better than heroin, right?
definitely.
Yeah.
But I think too, when you see imperfect people struggling to improve, I think that's can be inspiring to people. That not everybody is living a perfectly, you know, life on a perfectly straight trajectory, but they still work hard, you know.
We have time for one more question.
Take it.
Hey, I really enjoyed watching you guys' show the last couple of years. I'm also a big fan of the movie Warrior. I know Frank was in both. And his characters are vastly different, which I appreciate when you take some of the MMA stuff and make it similar. My question was about this episode. The end of Warrior culminates with a scene that is very similar to the fight scene in this episode. You've got two brother-like characters in this episode, two brothers. You have injury, you have a very tough tap-out scene. And then there's music playing. It's a very similar cinematic experience. You stole it. And it kind of struck me. I'm curious as to if you thought about that or that inspired you in the juxtaposition of them.
Warrior's a good movie. No, we did our thing completely separate from that. It's really, you know, a lot of those themes are really unavoidable in a fight. You know what I mean? So that kind of thing's going to happen, and I don't know, man. No.
All right, well, thanks everyone for being here.
Thanks, guys.
Kingdom airs on Wednesdays, 9 p.m. on Audience, and there's actually a photo booth outside, so so you can take a really cool picture. And winners, don't forget to collect your prize on your way out. Thank you.